I will call the meeting to order at 4:30 p.m. Trustee Addison is absent. Public comment on closed session items. At this time, any person may address the board on any closed session item or any item not listed on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act. The board cannot consider issues or take action to requests during this comment period. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. Our closed session items are public employee appointment. The board will be meeting regarding the salary or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of the position of superintendent and unrepresented employee. C2, public employment employee appointment. The board will meet in closed session to discuss the addendum to an employment contract with the superintendent. C3, public employee performance evaluation of the superintendent. C4, conference labor negotiators with tax, CSEA, unrepresented, and management. Do we have any closed session item? Public comment on closed session items? Please step forward to the podium. Can we just double check to make sure that it's on? Thank you, Luis. Thank you.
Thank you. I am here, Lori is my name, representing myself as a community member. I'm also a retired, semi-retired administrator. I don't think we ever retire. And more importantly, the grandparent of a student at Jefferson Elementary. Like many community members, we have been anxiously watching agendas and specifically looking for your agenda item C to discuss all things superintendent for this district. We all know we live in a small community. We all know that we love to talk, go to the plate, go to a salon downtown, and it's all talk. I wanted to share some of the things that I have heard personally from members of the community. These members, again, are parents, they are grandparents, they are students, which are important, and they are community members. Let's start with staff members. What I have been told, and let me lead with, I have nothing, no criticism, no complaints, nothing negative. I'm going to lead with that. So, from staff members, what I've been told is, hey, we now have the best superintendent I have ever worked for. He has set goals and determined to meet them. Wow, I've never had this many staff members from the DO attend an event on this campus. Again, a staff member, we finally have a leader who solicits our input on all matters. From community members, I've heard comments like, we have a superintendent with ethics and is not a dictator. Their words, not mine. A community member also said, we feel that we are heard and seen. From a parent, I feel comfortable discussing my concerns and ideas with him. He's approachable. And the most perfectly summed up opinion of a student is, he's at our school a lot. So, having said that, as a community member, I just felt that, felt the need to let you know that. And I know that you all have heard input from the community. I just felt like you needed to hear it from me. As an administrator, in my ethics and law class, I can remember Dr. Porter lecturing us as students, saying, hey, do not apply for positions in administration and education lightly. It's not a position that you're going to throw out a wide net and you're going to apply for districts without doing your homework. Make sure that position is a good fit for you. Don't take a position and then go, oh, well, it's just not a good fit. Is that me?
3 minutes.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. With that, we move on to closed session at 4:35. going to reconvene to open session at 6 p.m. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to approve the agenda?
Thank you. I have a trustee Garrison motion to approve the agenda order. I'm gonna read the little section and then I'll ask for the second. The board reserves the right to change the order in which the agenda items are discussed and or acted upon at this meeting. Subject to further action by the board, the agenda for this meeting is to be approved as presented. Items may be added to this agenda for discussion or action only as permitted by the Brown Act. I have a motion by trustee Garrison. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By trustee Lopez White for the approval of the agenda order. Preferential is not here. No.
I know, weren't they supposed to?
No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent. Public comment on consent and non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent or non-agenda item pursuant to the Brown Act. During this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. If you have any public comment on consent or non-agenda items, please walk to the podium.
Should I hand this out now or until she speaks?
I'll let her deal with that.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome. If you can state your name and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Ken Collins, and I have 2 questions that I've been asked by various people over the last 2 or 3 years. Why there is no music program in Cloverdale schools? I say I don't know, but I'll attend a board meeting and try to find out. And secondly, do you have any plans to reinstate it? And the third is just a comment that I would like to help in any efforts toward that means. I'm retired now, but I still have energy and enthusiasm for working with young kids and teaching them music. I'd like to help get a band program started. Anyway, if you could address those 2 questions, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
During public comment, we receive questions and then I will most likely have and direct Mr. Sinistro to give you the answers. During public comment, we receive comment but we cannot respond to the comment
Oh, okay.
at this time. But I will have our superintendent reach out to you.
Okay.
So that they can answer those questions.
All right. And how will he reach out? Should I give you my contact info or what? How?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll also request that we put it as a future agenda item.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Should I
thank
just
you.
go home and tell him?
I was told I had 5 minutes, so hopefully we can do this quickly.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Donna Canberra. I'm a homeowner and a 26-year resident of Cloverdale, and I participated for many years with the high school budget, vice principal selection committee, school to career, PTA, grad night, and so forth. I played with the Cloverdale High School band in the Citrus Parade and at the pep rallies at the football games. I'm here to ask you to plan for a school music program and to implement that plan. Even glee clubs would be a good start. Children must have music inside them. Who hasn't seen a toddler swaying or dancing on their tiny little feet, or beat on pots and pans? Children also love to sing along with their favorite shows and songs. We need to actively encourage superior brain development by starting at an early age by introducing music. It is one of the only activities that does this. In addition, my father, a former police officer, years ago noted that there were never any band members in juvie. Of course, he's 94. I began lessons as a third grader as I was doing well in school, and it was a year before the enrollment was open to all, open enrollment for instrument. Regardless of taking up an instrument or not, all fourth graders had to learn and wanted to learn the recorder. The noise generated was truly fun. I played violin, viola, flute, and added piccolo in 7th grade. I was on honor roll all 8 semesters. I played flute and piccolo in high school, marching in the marching band, concert band, and pit bands. I took choir one semester. Although it was fun and I liked the music, it wasn't for me. I played a little mostly for myself after high school, but it wasn't until 27 years later when I attended a Healdsburg community band performance and found myself enthralled with the whole experience that I knew I was missing something. After the concert, I spoke to a couple flute players and the conductor. Each encouraged me to join the band. The best part was no auditions. I have now been with the band for over 20 years. If I'm having a bad day, I go to rehearsal, I leave uplifted, energized, and with a smile on my face, no matter how difficult the rehearsal. I realized a part of my soul was again being fed after so many long years away from both music and the camaraderie of the band members. So from toddler to school to life to retirement, music has provided me a foundation for being healthier and happier in life and as a community member. Our schools have the resources to start a music program. If they are not used, they will be ruined. These items are instruments, uniforms, music charts, music stands, and beyond. The elementary school has beginning instruments unutilized in storage. One principal told me, tax dollars already acquired and spent on music are being wasted.
Thank you, Donna. We have a copy.
Okay.
I believe a copy.
Just
of
one
what
more
you stated.
paragraph so that you've got the end.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If there is any other public comment on consent and non-agenda items, if we can please come up to the board, or to the podium. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to H, closed session reportable action taken. So no reportable action. No reportable action. All right. Consent calendar. The Cloverdale Unified School District Board of Trustees utilizes a consent calendar for items that require the approval of the board but are routine in nature. They act upon these items in one vote. Any member may remove an item for additional questions. Board members receive their agendas and backup materials 7 days in advance of our meeting. They have the opportunity to ask questions and do research prior to our meeting. It is their intent to handle the routine items expeditiously so that they have time to address issues that are more serious. With that, anybody need to pull any items on consent?
I'd like to pull number 4.
There's
Number
memorandum of
4.
Can you state which one?
Is it the
Memorandum of Understanding with Healdsburg Unified School District
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong.
for shared expenses of student.
Anything else? With that, may I get a motion?
I move to approve 1 through 3 and 5 through 9. I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Garrison and a second by trustee Lopez White for the approval of 1 through 3 and 5 through 9. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent. Can I just confer, do I need to say preferential is absent, or I just say no one's absent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With that, number 4, memorandum of understanding with Hillsborough Unified School District for shared expenses of student.
Where does this student go to school? Our district or Healdsburg?
Hello. The student attends a non-public school, and our SELPA has a policy whereby if a student has parents living in 2 different districts and they share custody equally, that the districts are supposed to share financial responsibility.
Who gets the ADA for the student?
That's a great question. It should be Healdsburg. However, that should be factored into the cost that we were, the shared cost that they are requesting. That should be taken out.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm assuming that student goes to a different school district. And, yeah, some school districts getting the ADA for it. So
Correct.
if we're not getting any ADA, why do we have to cover half the cost? And number two, Healdsburg also generates, I haven't checked it this year, but in past years, they receive approximately twice as much money per district as this district. It seems completely unequitable to take this amount of money from our students when that student is enrolled in a district that's getting twice as much ADA for that student. It just seems completely wrong that we're splitting half that cost for both of those things.
Well, basic aid districts don't get ADA. They get a certain amount of money regardless of their ADA.
Right, well,
So-
they
We're
get
not.
it, they get a amount of money based on their taxes,
Correct.
which is variable.
Correct.
And I haven't checked this year, but previous years, they had twice as much money per head. So that should also be factored in if they're getting the ADA.
Generally, if a student goes to a different school, the school that they're attending would collect the ADA and then use that to offset what they would charge then the school district. I don't know about the NPAs, how that works, but that's generally how it's worked. For example, if they go to a county school, the county will have them on their roll. They'll collect ADA, and then they'll charge anything in addition to that to the school district where they came from. So it is unique on that, and we can certainly follow up with that, for that. But I do know that they don't really get quote-unquote ADA. They just get kind of an amount, so it's always a little sketchy on how that comes out. But certainly I've personally, being from a different county, this is a brand new one for me.
I've been a school board member for 8 years, and this is brand new to me, too.
Gotcha.
I've never seen this district do this.
My understanding is we've done it several times.
Yes.
That there was this is past practice that we've actually done. What we worked on is that we weren't even invited to any of these IEP meetings, and so we're saying, well, hold on a second, how are we
Yeah.
sending a kid somewhere and we didn't have any say? So we've definitely been saying if we're going to be a part of this, we need to also be a part of the decision that's
Yep.
going to this. But you bring up some great questions. I would love to take those back for that. So I don't have any issues with holding off on this till we get those answered.
Yeah, I'd request we
Perfect.
just pull the
Yeah.
item until we have a lot more
Agreed.
information.
Is it a public, I mean, it's not, it's a non-public school, but is it a private school?
It functions kind of like that, but it's different. It's a non-public school, which would be,
That specializes with students
correct.
that have IEPs, or can
Correct.
anyone
well,
go?
certain services they'll provide that a public school may not provide.
Okay.
Correct. Correct.
And they're certified to provide those services for special education.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because having read our budget ahead, I'd like to know a lot more. I'd like to know exact numbers. What is the non-public school cost? How much ADA is somebody getting for this? And what is the exact commitment we're being asked to commit to? Because this is kind of an open check.
I felt the same way, yes. Especially when we weren't even having a seat at the table.
Yeah,
Yes. So, yeah, no problem.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I
So it's tabled.
get it? Yeah. So this is tabled? Okay.
If you want
So-
to table it.
Item, I believe that's the direction. Yeah, absolutely. Let's table it. So item 4 is tabled for a future agenda item. J, association reports. J1, California School Employee Association, Chapter 170 has no report. Thank you. J2, Teachers Association of Cloverdale.
Renee Duvander, President of the Teachers Association of Cloverdale. I want to start by acknowledging the positive start to the school year. Across the district, there is a great sense of community and collaboration among teachers and staff. This atmosphere is crucial for maintaining morale, and we are already seeing how this positive energy is benefiting our students. When teachers feel supported and connected, it translates to better classroom experiences where students are more engaged and motivated. However, we do have ongoing challenges that we want to bring to your attention. A significant concern is the lack of consistent sub-coverage at Jefferson and Washington. Especially with vacant positions, teachers currently on leave, and others preparing to go on leave. This issue not only negatively impacts students' educational experiences, but creates a ripple effect across the entire school. When there is insufficient sub-coverage, it compromises the valuable time needed for IEP meetings, which are crucial for our students with special needs. Additionally, it places undue strain on our administrators and pulls certificated staff away from their other duties, further affecting their ability to serve our students. This situation is unsustainable and requires urgent attention to ensure that all students receive the support they need. Lastly, I want to highlight the great start our students have had this year. There is enthusiasm and engagement, and it's been outstanding, contributing significantly to a positive and productive learning environment. I also want to extend a special thanks to our parents for their active involvement through Parent Square and Aries. Their support plays a vital role in our students' success and helps create a strong school community. Thank you for your time. I look forward to continuing to work together and to support our teachers and students.
Thank you.
Okay, school reports. Jefferson Elementary School.
Good evening. I have no additions to my report to the board, so as submitted.
Thank you.
K2 Washington School.
Good evening, and same thing. So no additions, and so you have my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. K3 Cloverdale High School, JH Continuation High School.
You have my report as submitted. I hope you got to see the garden a little bit. It's still a work in progress. We were hoping to get a little bit more done, but it's coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you. L, Special Education and Student Services Report.
And you also have my report as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just say thank you so much for making, there's been a bunch of parent information night about special education, and there's one that's going to be planned for October 21st at 6 p.m. So please come on over, to be determined, but thank you so much for all that outreach and just education of our community. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that plug for our parent night. We're excited.
Yeah. Educational Services Report. No report, it says right there. Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation Report.
As submitted.
Moving on to board reports. Trustee Lopez White, may you start us off?
Yes. I attended both Washington Middle School Back to School Night, Cloverdale High School Back to School Night. Both were great. I got to be at the high school Back to School Night as a board member, not just a parent, so that was nice. And I want to say I really appreciate how the high school did theirs. All of the departments were together, and it was a drop-in, which I heard positive feedback from parents that they were able to kind of go for all of their high school kids at once. So it seemed like it went really well. We had a Measure H meeting where we were at Washington School and saw the completed bus turnout. They worked really fast, which was awesome. I don't know how many projects have finished when they're supposed to be finished, so that was nice to see. Thank you. And we also had a SARB meeting where we actually had a lot of students that we talked about, and kind of it seemed very proactive rather than reactive, where we're talking about students and let's find out the plans before they end up right here because of their attendance. So it was really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing how our attendance is really impacted this year in the positive. So that is all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Garrison?
I'm writing notes. Hang on a second.
I can go if that's okay.
Sure.
So I was fortunate enough to go to the Healdsburg football game of the opener, as well as homecoming. Went and saw the parade and the floats and everything, and it was so awesome. It was just nice to see the community come out. My daughter in particular loved it, especially the candy, so keep that coming for next year. And it was just overall a really, really, really nice community event, and it was great. So thank you, CHS, for putting on such a great homecoming and all of that.
Thank you. Trustee Garrison?
Okay, at the boosters meeting, always looking for board members. The meeting is the first Monday of the month, so anyone is welcome to that. Jessica Diaz was given the role of social media coordinator, so that can be found on new Instagram as well as Facebook to find out sports information. They approved several coaches' requests that came out of those particular sports funds, but from the general fund, they approved difference for Huddle. It's like an app that does score stats, different things like that, and you can view it. The district committed $4,000, and they are paying the difference in order to have a whole package that all sports can take utilization of if they choose to. It can also be used for drama. They would have the ability to record it and have things like that too if somebody wanted. So it's open to more than just sports. And then they also approved the pads at either end of the West Gym to replace those. That was a request, and so they're going to be working with the district to get that taken care of. At the Care Board meeting, also looking for more members. That meeting is held the Tuesday prior to the school board meeting. Be on the lookout for the annual donation letter that would be coming out to everyone. They're still hoping to do the book tree this year. Several donation grant requests were submitted. Some were approved, some are pending, waiting questions. And I know that we're still working on getting the coffee chat dates, Kathleen, so I'm available. I didn't fill it out just because I am so available, so I wanted to let everyone else get in there first, and then I'll take whatever can't, so that's why I haven't signed up yet. I attended the volleyball game and the football game. It's fun to see everyone out there. Concern or issue that I have is with football. There have been several injuries, and at the homecoming game, we did have to end before the third quarter because there was too many injured players. There was a amount of subs, and had those subs gotten hurt, then we would have had to forfeit anyways. A concern I have and others have brought to my attention is grades, because several players haven't been able to play because of grades. And so I just want to make sure that the district is providing a study hall or a way for those students to meet those needs. And Superintendent Sinistero did say that yes, the football coach is working with that, and I would encourage that coaches and the AD reach out and work with those students, because not just for the sports that are happening now, but they're going to need grades in order to play the winter sports. So just that the sites are staying on top of that moving forward.
But also, the students need to want to have that. So it kind of goes hand in hand. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Edison?
I also attended the Measure H meeting, and although it seems like it was a quick project, that project has been about 5 years in the making, and a lot of battles and collaboration, and the construction took about 5 weeks, but it literally took 5 years to get the paperwork done. So we now have a beautiful bus turnout and drop-off, and just like a field of dreams, someday there'll be a street to it. So the district has done their part. We've built to the curb, and now we're just waiting for the city to get that street through somehow. We also have 7 new parking places on campus, which is always something we never have enough of. And it's really beautified that front area there. So, and it'll be a revolutionary drop-off for the middle school once we have a road going through it. I attended the CARE meeting. CARE also needs board members badly. CARE has been donating, raising money for the district for decades. They also have requested several times to, as is past tradition, to be able to attend a staff meeting at each site and speak to the faculty and staff. So I'd hope that could get set up, because they feel like they keep asking again and again to participate. They give a lot of money to the district, and they'd like to come as they traditionally have and speak to the teachers. And also, CARE will have a food booth at the Asti Tour Divine coming up in October, which is one of their fundraising events. So if anybody would like to make cookies or other baked goods for that, they could really use the help. And they could use some feet on the ground too. So if anybody wants to help with CARE on Saturday, you can reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with them.
When's the
October 12th.
Okay.
October 12th, yep.
And I have nothing to report. Moving on to our superintendent report.
So just to be clear, the bus turnout is there. We don't want anybody going down and turning around. We're not going to be taking the bus down there now and going to the field. So I know some people were asking about that. So it's just really there. Once the street goes through, then we'll use it. So for that part, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Reports, discussion, Measure H.
As submitted.
Thank you. Early Education Facilities Project.
There's no update to this point. We're still just in DSA and waiting for CDE and all that stuff.
Q3, South Cloverdale property.
Okay, so the board at our last meeting, we were talking about, we did a PowerPoint regarding kind of our population and school population and how things have changed. One of the things that we talked about also was the need to start addressing some of the potential fire mitigation down there. I mean, more for next spring essentially than now. So one of the things that was brought up were a couple different things. Were number one, if we could, I know before I arrived on scene here, we used to have some donkeys out there. And so we looked at potentially some livestock to go out there. Unfortunately, there is actually no water on there. There's no running water on there. So it would be difficult to put any cattle there without having somebody bringing out. Apparently the donkey owner used to bring out water in the trough to be able to do that. So another suggestion was to look at potentially bringing goats in to be able to at least keep the, lack of a better term, at least to keep it mowed. So I did call and got an email from Chasin Goat Grazin of Northern California. And there are several, the guy's name's Chase, so So they have a cost per acre essentially, and what we would look at is the 16 to 40 acres would be about $1,600 per acre for them to come in. Our services include the provision of goats and sheep, temporary fencing, personnel to manage the project, care for the animals, mobilization, and any necessary permits. The only item needed from the clients is to access water. So we would have to work with them on the water issue. And it says if there's no access to water, we can haul it in for an additional fee.
Can you state the fee again?
Yeah, I know I sent you guys this email too.
Okay.
But the fee was, so basically if it's less than two acres, they charge $6,900 per acre. And then they go on up, and then from 16 to 40 acres is about $1,600 an acre, $1,595 per acre.
What's our current acreage?
We're about 30, 29 and a half.
$15.95
$1,595.
per acre.
Per acre,
Yeah, I know.
yes.
And they're gonna eat
It's a good
the
gig
for
if you
free.
have
The
four
for
acres.
free.
No, $1,600 per acre, they're gonna charge you to eat that. Plus the water if we wanna have them bring it in. I understand your concern, yes.
I'll work on getting some volunteers to mow a fire break on that property.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's economical per se, but
Can we
anyway.
get other quotes?
I believe there's one other one, yes, we could get another quote.
I'm just
from a-
curious if
from
that's
a
the
goat
going
herder.
rate or if that is.
That just seems really expensive.
So, I mean, that rate makes sense when you have an acre.
Well, $6,900 an acre.
If it's less, because if it was
If it's
less
2 acres or
than
less,
2 acres, that's.
Or 5 acres, right? But when you've got
that'd be 2,000 an acre.
30, 40 acres,
Yes, I understand.
that's just, I'm getting goats.
And just so you know, I don't have any stock in the company whatsoever. So
We do have a
land.
landscaper.
Yes. So like I said, the fire department's been kind enough to,
Yeah.
and they said they would do it going forward, is to put in a break. Because like I said, we kind of have a somewhat of an agreement where they're going to come in and do that, but they're going to use it as a training area. And if you've been out there, it actually looks pretty good. But anyway, I'm just bringing back some information for you guys. I thought it was, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Maybe I'm in the wrong business. I need to go get some goats. So, but I can certainly call a different one. I'm assuming there's probably paying attention to each other would be my guess, but I don't know. Anyway, I did talk with we talked also about an ag, our CTE program. We put something out there, but her concern was the lack of water, to put them out there and have to bring water out. So, and we also went and she went and walked it too. I'm talking about Angelica, and there is a significant amount of work to do, I think, on the fencing that's there too, as far as that goes. So
Maybe one of the neighboring developers would help provide what would be an insignificant amount of water to them.
potentially,
inside.
yeah. Anyway, we'll keep looking, keep checking things out and such. Just bringing back the goat information. So, but other than that, I haven't done. That was kind of the only charge you put me in, was to go figure out what some different things would be, and so on. So that's my report on the South property update.
Are we gonna keep this as a standing item? So
Yeah,
we can
it'll be on
revisit
there,
it every
yes.
month?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't have anything to add this time.
Right,
unless you have
yeah.
Some questions
That's
for
fine.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Q4. Proposed change to Cloverdale High School graduation requirements.
Can you pass it down?
Hello. Do I have a clicker? Okay. Hello. So Steve presented the proposed graduation requirement changes in June. I couldn't be there because I was an avid. I was watching live. So it's been, the board asked us to answer some questions, and so we needed to get our staff back so we can make some phone calls and answer some questions. So here's my presentation. To review, here's our current graduation requirements. So we have 238 grad requirements to graduate from Cloverdale High School, and those are the different years. I gave the board a copy of this because some of these numbers might be a little small, might be easier to read it on paper.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The proposed change is to add 10 years for social studies, to add 10 years for mathematics, keep the number of electives at 80 credits, but...
10 years or you?
Sorry.
credits?
We're going to be really educated. 10 credits more, so 40 credits, 4 years for social studies, 10 more credits to math, and then keep the electives at 80, but specify that 20 of those credits need to be in CTE. So we would increase our graduation requirements from 238 to 258. And also to add on an alternative diploma. So this is something Ms. LeVay and Steve talked about last time. This is the new requirement from the state saying we need to have an alternative diploma. So kind of the state is moving away from the certificate of completion track. It's still available, but having an alternative diploma for our students. So these are the questions I received from the board. What needs are we trying to address from the proposed changes? What is the data to support the change? In the past few years, how many students completed high school with 2 years of math versus 3 years of math? Number of students who went directly to a CSU and UC versus JC versus no education? Feedback from staff, student, and parents? Number of students who had to repeat math to graduate? Why did Geyserville recently change their grad requirements from 3 years of math to 2? And what are other districts doing in their board policies? And here are those answers. So what are the needs are we trying to address? In social studies, this is the AB 331 ethnic studies requirement that all schools have to have ethnic studies as a requirement starting in the year 2025. So we are retooling our Modern California class to be ethnic studies. And so that will make us compliant there. For math, the need we're addressing is to better prepare our students for the CASP test.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
AB 331 ethnic studies is a 5-year, or it's a
4-year.
5 credit requirement?
Correct. So it's a 5 credit requirement, but since the only classes that are semester-long classes are Gov Econ in high school, and we already have our system in place for Modern California, we would just make it a year-long course. So math, the purpose is to better prepare our students for the CASP test. That is the state test. So back in the day, you had the STAR test. So this is the CASP test that our students' scores are available on the California dashboard, and that's where we're kind of judged and compared to other schools, and also to better prepare our students for math after high school.
Question on that. The
yes.
CASP test, that's only taken for 11th graders.
11th grade, right.
So we want to, what's being proposed is 4 years though.
3
So,
for math. And 2 to 3.
oh, I thought it was, okay.
The 4 years is for social studies.
Okay.
Which is 10 more credits, and
Got
then
it,
the
got
3
it.
years is 10 more for math.
Okay.
Right, because currently with the 2-year requirement, students could take math their freshman year, sophomore year, and then don't take anything their junior year, and then they're tested in their junior year on their math skills. And then the CTE requirement, this is to emphasize the importance of real-world learning, and also to encourage pathway completers. What I handed you, there's a kind of handy-dandy little flow chart, tree map from the San Diego Unified School District that explains how you can count as prepared in the CCI, College and Career Readiness Index. And so if you look on the far right, if you complete a CTE pathway, as well as hit a couple other, or one other factor, you can be counted as prepared. And then for the alternative diploma, that is to be compliant with Senate Bill 141, which is making an alternative diploma, which is what every district in the county, or really in the state, is figuring out because this passed not too long ago. Any questions there?
Can you, sorry if this is throwing you off track, can you explain a little more what our alternative diploma track is? Like what is the, I mean, this might be a Nicole question, sorry. Is this something that a student would be receiving if they're at JEH?
No, so the
Or what is our alternative diploma track?
Sure. So currently, students have two tracks. You're either diploma track or certificate of completion. And if you're certificate of completion, you are typically an ESN student, which is the new term for SDC, special day class student. And so those are students that need a certificate of completion. So students with Down syndrome, for example, wouldn't go on an A through G diploma track. And so what the alternative diploma is doing is, since diploma is such the need for getting a job and for getting anything, that students that have a hard time getting like an A through G college prep diploma are looking for an alternative diploma. So what we've kind of looked at with other districts, everybody's kind of figuring this out. So the California minimum in order to graduate high school is 130 credits. And so we are researching other districts. What are they doing? Trying to get guidance from SELPA in terms of what our alternative diploma track would look like. So I would imagine if we have an alternative diploma track, we might have 5 students on that track. Just like currently, I think we have 2 students on the certificate of completion track. So we're talking a pretty small amount of students.
When do you determine that they're going to get an alternative diploma versus, like, is it when they're coming in as a freshman, or is it their senior year when they're not about to graduate because they don't have enough credits? So we're going to throw the other option.
Ideally, that would be something they would come into their freshman year, because these are students with extensive needs. And so that's not really something that's just pops out of the blue in senior year. Those are issues that we know about from probably Jefferson, Washington coming up. And so this is something that would be made in an IEP team, and it would be a team decision made. So it's not something we just forcibly would put students on. Am I saying all this right?
Would you like me to add to that?
Sure.
The requirement is that, well, ideally by 10th grade, we're having that discussion with families. And these would be students who already take the California Alternative Assessment, the CAW, instead of the CASP test. So these are students who, like Mr. Harper said, have been identified already as having pretty significant challenges that require significant modifications to access their curriculum and instruction. Pretty small number of students. So we will present to you probably next month a board policy around this so that you can take a look at that and really look at what those steps would be in our district. Okay. Any other questions about the alternate diploma? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The other question that was asked was, what is the data to support this change? So ethnic studies and the alternative diploma are state requirements, so the data is the law. And then the math, we are currently rated in red in the California dashboard. So if you Google California dashboard, go onto the California dashboard, you can look up any school in the state to see their CAS scores, their graduation requirements, their suspension rate, things like that. And so our math scores are in the red, so that's something that we should improve upon. And also looking over our STAR scores, a lot of our students are shown to be in 2 grade levels or below. STAR is our Renaissance, is a program that we use for common formative assessments and to kind of use a baseline of where students are in August and then benchmarks through the year. And so our data shows that our students are behind in mathematics. And then for CTE, we are rated as low on the California dashboard for our CCI. Last year, we had 32 pathway completers, and this year I set a goal in our SIPSA to have 40 pathway completers. Last year, we had 2 official pathways. This year, we have 6 pathways. So that was all the courses that the board approved last year for our CTE, increase in our CTE offerings, and so we're hoping that this will help students not only be prepared, but also help our schools scores in terms of how students are classified as ready. Any questions?
I have a question. So looking at the red California dashboard, how many, for math, how many students don't take a third year of math?
That is coming up next.
Can I ask about the red before you go?
Sure.
Is that specific to our high school or is that our district overall?
That's our high school. So when you go to the California
by each
dashboard,
school.
you can look for Cloverdale Unified, or you can do Cloverdale High School or Jefferson Elementary School or something like that.
So just a quick question on the math, and maybe this is more for the superintendent, because I think it goes well beyond the high school. Rather than increasing the requirements for high school students, because we have students coming in 2 grades below levels, essentially if we're adding a year, we're adding at least another teacher, another section of math, technically, because we've got to have somebody to teach that new requirement. Wouldn't we be better putting our resources in at the elementary and middle school to get our kids caught up in math before they come to high school?
So this requirement would not increase our FTE because most students take 3 or 4 years of math already, which I have the data to kind of show that, I think, on my next slide.
I'd still leave it as a district level question. Wouldn't we be better putting resources into getting them up to speed before they get to high school?
And I guess I would ask the question, if they're already taking it, why make it a requirement?
And are we saying that those 6 students are the reason why we're in the red, that are not taking the math?
No, but actually, if I cover the next slide, it might answer some of these questions. And yeah, I mean, in terms of math being prepared in general, I think that's something we could probably do a better job at vertical articulation. Actually, I just emailed Shauna about getting a meeting together to talk about kind of vertically aligning math and English, and that was something our PD committee talked about, is in our PLCs to have one PLC a semester to have Washington and Cloverdale High teachers work together to kind of collaborate. But let me go forward, and then you might have some more questions. Okay, so in terms of students who completed 20 credits or math or below, last year 10% of our students completed 20 credits or below. 2 students did not graduate high school, so 6 students were able to graduate with 20 credits or less. We have 7 students, so 9% of our students had 25 credits. So these are students that maybe took a 3rd year and either failed one semester or maybe decided to change out of that class because it's not a requirement. And then we had 82% of our students take 3 or 4 years of math from last year's graduating class. And then the question was how many students are repeating math? Last year, 10% of our students had to repeat math in order to graduate with the 20 credits. And so I have a couple more slides on this because the board asked for a couple years. So this was the previous year, 2023. 18% was 20 credits or below, 11% was 20 to 30, and 71% was 30 or higher, and 12% of their graduates had to repeat. And then finally, 2022, 9% of our graduating class had 20 credits or below. Students with 20 to 30 was 16%, and 75% of our students were 30 or more. So, and then 2 years ago, it was 4% of students need to repeat, and then the previous year was 12% of students needed to repeat. So if we're kind of averaging the last 3 years together, about 15% or so was 20 credits or less, about 12% or so was somewhere between 20 and 30, and about 76% or so was 30 credits or more. And then these are also including students that did not graduate high school. So last year, for example, we had 2 students that didn't graduate, so they were 20 credits or below, but they were also below in like every category.
So we have an overwhelming majority of our students already taking 3 years of math.
Correct.
But our scores are still in the red, so how does requiring them to do what they're already doing, I don't
Support the change.
see the logical, statistical, mathematic, data-driven line. Already, most of our students take 3 years of math, and our math scores are in the red. Again, the data doesn't, they're already taking it, and it's not helping. We should be addressing this at a district level, K-8. K-8, because they need to, they're already taking 3 years of math. Imagine where they'd be if they were on track when they started 9th grade. With the 3 years of math they've taken. 70% of our students would be graduating with calculus. I don't see, I mean, they're already taking it. I don't see how making it required is going to change their score.
And I think that's when I ask the question of like, what's the need? What is the actual need that we're trying to address? And I'm not sure, are we trying to address like student learning math? Because state testing, I know it's another test and it's another metric, but it's just one metric of how our students are performing, and it's, we want to measure them learning. And I think to the point that our trustee Addison was saying, it's like, okay, what's happening when they get to high school, and how are we learning and how are we leveraging them learning math? Because I think that test is just demonstrating that they're not learning math.
And maybe those other 20% of the students who aren't taking 3 years are way better served staying in one of our pathways or taking an extra pathway class than having to now go and take math instead of something that may actually change their life and their career path. I just don't see the data.
I'm just my thought process as well, I'm agreeing with what you guys are saying, but also being on the SARB committee and seeing the students that we're just trying to get to come to school. I'm not gonna call out names or anything like that, but I'm just saying there's 8 that were taking 20 and below math credits. At the SARB meeting we just had, I think we had about 8 from the high school this year that aren't even coming to school, which I imagine are probably part of those 8. I know this is last year's graduating class, but in perspective, so mandating them to take a 3rd year of math, I just see that number, our graduation rates are gonna go down if we're limiting some students' availability to graduate based on 1 more year of math alone. And then let alone attendance. I mean, the kids that aren't coming to school just don't want to sit in an academic class a lot of the time. So if we're trying to get them to come to school more, come to school, and then also we're gonna make you take another year of math, which you already don't like. I don't think that helps us in the long run, attendance-wise. And I could be totally off base, but just my observation on that.
Yeah, I think the proposal is to address the need now, and I think what Trustee Addison and Mendoza-Torres was mentioning is a kind of bigger picture of addressing math systemically in the district.
Yeah, let's get them to you already at grade level.
That would be great. This was a fun one. Actually, we like doing this so much, I'm like, we should do this every year. So we contacted the graduates from last year. We were able to get a hold of 94% of our graduates. And here is what they are doing according to what their parents or they responded. We have about 54% of students going to a junior college, whether that's SRJC or a different community college, or taking some kind of like University of Phoenix online classes or something like that. The next biggest group is students that are working, which is about 19%, followed by students at CSU and UC, which is about 11%. Students outside state universities is 6%. Oh, the glare. 5%. We have trade school, about 4% in military, and then we have one student doing nothing currently. But
That's better than our attendance rates last year, so it's
right.
good.
Hey, and at least he was honest. Like that was appreciated. But hey, we got him to graduate, so give us a break.
He's here. Do you want to talk to him?
I don't think he's here. Any questions on this? Okay, feedback from staff. So this, and this is also why I printed this out, because some of these, it's really hard to read, so it's probably easier to read your packet. Gave a feedback to staff, students, and parents. It was all the same questions. 5 is, I fully support this idea. 1 is totally against this idea. So you can see staff is on the middle, kind of towards the opposing. Just, I picked out some quick snippets to try to get our range of opinions. Think it's great, it's good for the mid to high, it's too much, it's a bad idea, I have mixed feelings, but I'm leaning towards it. And then I printed out on the piece of paper all of the responses, so you can see what everybody said.
Now that we're talking about math, can I know what the y-axis and the x-axis are of the, sorry.
I was sitting there trying to figure that out myself.
Am I looking at a scale, years, teachers, pets, dogs, goats?
Which page are you
Biscuits.
looking at?
This,
Oh,
yeah, so what is the x-axis? So the x-axis is this one, the one that goes horizontal.
Yeah.
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 Which
so
was that
this is the 5 is fully support going to a 3-year. 1 is fully opposed to 3 years. And then the Y is just number of people that replied in those different categories.
and is 4 meaning,
For staff members.
okay, thank you.
Number of people, and then fully
11.
supports is 5, opposed is 1. I mean,
Full,
the number
fully
1.
support is 5, fully opposed
And
is
that's
1.
the range.
Yep.
And
Got it?
11 responses out of high school staff or district staff?
High school staff. And then below is which of the following reasons why you support this. This could better prepare our students. Students should have a better understanding of mathematics, which is a very teacher answer to reply. And that had the most with 7 staff members. And then you can see the other ones. Students are going to struggle to graduate. Our students are not ready for this. This could lead to frustration. This could increase in students not graduating high school. I don't think students need more math.
So this is specific to the math increase.
This is just math.
Just math. So
Because a lot of the questions the board had were specifically
Yep.
about math, and
Yep.
based on the comments I saw when I was watching YouTube, it sounded like people were on board for the CTE, people are on board for the alternative diploma and the social studies requirement, and then the math is the question. So a lot of this is based on math.
So 46% of staff say no. 18% say yes,
Wait,
and 36% decline to state.
Well, or put it in the middle, kind of like this last question where mixed feelings, you know? Does that make sense?
yep, thank you.
I'd say 3. If 3 is like, yeah, maybe, no,
On the,
on the fence.
don't have a,
The Google form, it's, you define 5 as love it, 1 is hate it, and then people respond how they
It's almost like an
want to.
abstain.
3's in the middle.
3's in the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's how the parents responded. So the comments are, don't add to our students' heavy loads. Students are having a hard time with math already. Math skills keep the U.S. competitive. I feel uneasy, but if we have the right tools, it might work. So you can see parents are more on the 1 side. So you can see the positive responses. The highest was 9, none of the above, while the more against the idea is 9 of the 13 response put it as all those concerns. And then students were kind of all over the place. It would be better because colleges for A through G recommend 3 years. It would be beneficial for those going to college because but it would help them, but it might be an obstacle to other people. We don't need an extra year of math. And my favorite comment, my sister's a freshman, and I thought it would be funny if she had to take 3 years. That was, gotta love students giving them the ability to say whatever they want to say. So you can see students are kind of all over the place.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah, but if
question?
you take the top two, I mean, they're overwhelmingly in support of it.
So if we have hundreds, how is it that only 18 took it?
We sent it out on Parent Square, and then I was even getting office TAs like, hey guys, can you please take this survey? And they went and took the survey so we can boost up the number of responses. But those are the students that chose to participate.
It should have
Which
been an
basic
assignment
math
in math
would
class.
say it's a statistically insignificant survey for all of them.
Yep. Okay. Couple more slides. So why did Geyserville go from 3 years of math to 2?
Because they want our students. Oh, no, sorry, did I say that?
I spoke with the principal, and she said it was a barrier for graduation because also Geyserville New Tech Academy is super small. I think their high school's, like 70, 60 kids or something like that. And so they just don't have that much staff. And so their third year of math is a higher form of math. And so they were making students take, more advanced mathematics, and students were struggling in order to graduate. So I think this could be resolved by having Algebra 1A and Algebra 1B, but that's what Geyserville did. And then I think there was a question of what districts do in the county. So Annalee's website was incorrect. They said 3 years, but they have 2, so I corrected that. And then Geyserville, when we did the presentation, had 3 years, but then they changed to 2. So the circles in blue, which is Sonoma, Annalee, Geyserville, and Cloverdale, are currently requiring 2, and everyone else in the county is 3. And that's it, my presentation.
In this, because I looked at all the board policies, I don't think that's still accurate.
Kathleen reached out to every,
Okay.
I would also say that some of them are giving waivers to a lot of stuff too, so.
Yeah.
And not only that, we found too that their board policy might say something and reality is something different, as far as that goes. So we did notice that on a couple of them. And a couple of them we called, we're like, oh, it is, I guess it's different. So,
and that was all the questions that was asked to me, and that's my presentation.
I will say the one thing I do really like about this proposal is the change of the college prep electives. It's not changing how many, but it's saying that 20 of them must be in CTE because we have put a lot of effort and support into our CTE classes. So making sure that at least 20 of them are CTE classes really ensures that we have the bodies in those classes to justify keeping those classes. So I appreciate that. And I'm on board with that part of it.
And so my other thing, if I can just state, so those CTE classes, I'm also reading this as they would count as a G if the student is an ongoing, like they're on a UC path.
Correct.
Right? So it would count as a G, so that it wouldn't be like, okay, I'm on a G path, but then I have to do a CTE path to graduate. It would cover.
Yes,
Is that
yeah.
correct?
All of our CTE classes are coded as G in A through G. G is the elective.
Okay.
And we discussed with the CTE department, do we want to require a pathway completer? And we decided to not go with a pathway completer because if somebody wants to take floral and then they take intro to floral and then they don't like floral, we don't want to force them into the capstone class of that pathway. So we decided to keep it as just 20 credits as opposed to requiring a completer, even though we do want students to complete the pathway.
I think that definitely looks at the movement of the vision or the district, or where is it going, where we have placed a lot of energy and funding and a lot of work has gone into CTE. And I would see how all of our previous action that we have taken definitely supports the addition of that, like what Trustee Lopez White stated with the CTE.
And that lines up with our new LCAP goal number 1 or number 2, I believe, for the getting students prepared for college and career.
And just to follow the other part of that too, with the completers, some of them are 2-class completers as opposed to 3. And so that might put that on there as a completer. It might be some of a barrier, a little bit of a barrier to that, for that part, because they might have started, let's say, in floral. They might have taken it their junior year and said, oh, I really like that, but there's not enough time for them to even be able to be a completer if it has to be a 3-class pathway. So this obviously gives it, and we found, at least in my experience, I've found that most kids will be a completer anyway because they've started with something they like. And that's really where the wheel class comes in as a freshman, is you get to kind of test everything that's in CTE and then kind of give a little trial each time, and then that week kind of pick which way is the way to go. But again, it depends on what's available. We feel like not all of them are a 2, so there must maybe some to 3.
I'm usually the math science guy, and it would be nice to have everybody graduate with the 3 years that are required of a CSU or UC. I'm definitely an advocate of that. We've had 3 years before at the high school. It's a requirement. But to be clear, the data doesn't support that it will have any change on our test scores. What we really need to focus on as a district is having these kids up to grade level when they arrive in the 9th grade. That's where we're going to make a change. K-8.
Yeah, and I would say that what we're doing with MTSS and everything like that should be helping figure that out a little bit better. And that's not going to come overnight, but I think I agree, and that's a great segue into what we're going to be talking about this year as far as when we want to put the FTEs and things like that as well, and services.
On that subject, I do, just since Sean is here, all of the students or just 7th graders all got flashcards from Washington, so that was nice, and I think that's all of the students at Washington. Yes, so they were able to send home math flashcards to all of the students, so they're doing something. Thank you.
It seems like the concern of the board is not adding the history, social science, or the college, the 20 CTE, or but the math seems to be the issue that we're concerned with. I know this is just a discussion. Another concern I have that's people have brought to me is requiring the freshmen taking all 8 classes. So I would like to have, I guess, that be brought back to the board of how, and I don't, it's too soon now, but I think more towards the end of the year to reevaluate that to see how many are passing. All of those classes, is it too much for them, and kind of reevaluate that as well. Just another topic, but since we're kind of talking about classes and all the requirements and stuff like that, I think that is something we should reevaluate.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. Number one is, I think in the interest of staff's time, I think it would be, even though we're not voting on it, I think it would be good to give direction if that is, because I certainly don't want Forrest to keep researching stuff, but we're not going to go down that road, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about of the 3. Sounds like to me that the board's kind of not necessarily wanting to look, I should say, I'm not saying it right, but that's kind of an issue we can leave behind now and start concentrating on the other 2 things that we were, or 3 things that we were talking about. So just want to make sure that we can kind of figure that part out.
Well, go ahead. And also to chime in on that, in terms of like building our master schedule, we have to have our course catalog finished before we go out on winter break. So that way we can have course requests in January, so we can get all those back in by mid-February and start build. So it's, I mean, in our site leadership team meeting in 2 weeks, we're bringing up the master schedule. So you think like September master schedule, it's like, yeah, it starts very early. So if we are or aren't going to this, we would need an answer by November.
Okay.
I believe, do
So-
you want to do
No,
thumbs?
I think it's pretty clear that we
Okay.
got that. So I think what we can look forward to is to bring in the alternative diploma, as well as the CTE, updating that portion of it, as well as the sort of the ethnic studies piece of that too, with that part. So good, we'll concentrate on moving that forward. And I think it's been a rich discussion. I like that. I would say thank you, Forrest, for going, even though you weren't here, you were listening, and you still got the stuff going. And I would say any of the staff members and kids and parents that put into it is great. It's awesome that people are giving their input, which is great. And I know some teachers have spoken on the issue too, and so it's always really good to not do things in a silo, so that way we can talk about it and everything like that too. So perfect.
Before we move on, can I just ask for my clarification? What are
No,
we
no, you
doing?
can't.
Well, I'm going
Just
to.
kidding.
What are we doing for incoming freshmen to prepare them for how every grade and every class that they take throughout high school affects their college outcome, if that is what they want to do, is go to a four-year college, or maybe they don't know yet. How are we preparing them to really understand what the classes that they need to take are being put on their schedule, so they are being accepted to the UCs and all of that?
So our counselor meets with every single student when they create their schedule. So our counselor has one-on-one students with all 8th graders and 9th through 11th graders. So everybody has that individualized attention. And also this year we doubled our number of AVID courses. AVID is a program that really helps students think about college and career. And so it's been really great because last year we had 1 teacher. This year we have 4 teachers teaching AVID. And so we're working on that. We have an AVID site coordinator. We actually reserve some of our PLC time for the AVID teachers to just meet, because now the AVID teachers actually are larger than most of our PLC groups. And that's a great place for students to do that, because they can learn about careers, they can learn about colleges, and we're hoping to go to the CARE Foundation to get field trips going. So that's an incentive to taking AVID, so that they can go and visit some colleges. And so we actually do spend a decent amount of time with that. And also, if you look at our back board over here, we have upcoming advisory events for different colleges. And yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're not going too far, I assume. But Q5, review and cite implementation of board policy 5131.8, mobile communication devices.
Let me get my other papers.
Yeah, so this was a agenda item that we talked about bringing back, and so I think it was, and so what we have on there is we have what the board policy states, and then I believe the teachers, the board would like to hear from the different sites on how this is being implemented, is my takeaway from that. And so I don't know how you want to do that, but it would be good to be able to maybe hear from them first, and then maybe ask some questions, or would you like to kind of state, I don't know, kind of open, but that's why this is on there.
Is it okay if I have each site come up and just state how they're articulating or following through with this board policy?
That's fine.
Thumbs? Okay. We'll go ahead and get started with CHS. Mr. Harper, since you're up.
Thank you. We always start with Jefferson. We never start with the high school. So our board, following the cell phone policy has been a major emphasis of us this school year. So at the beginning of the year, PD days, we had a rich discussion about cell phones and how best to enforce our board policy. I've sent out the board policy numerous times to teachers. So we created these flyers around campus. So they're in every single classroom in English and Spanish. And so you can see also our other flyers of no phone zone over here next to Kathleen's desk. And so we're really putting in a lot of effort to work on our cell phone issue. we have a cell phone violators Excel spreadsheet that all teachers have access to, because some students may take out their cell phone and then they're warned to put away, and then sometimes students get like 10 warnings a day every single day. And so teachers are recording any violators, and then we're following our school policy of continuous violators and pulling students in and issuing detentions and eventually Saturday schools and holding phones back and calling parents. So right now, the board policy of cell phones need to be in a designated storage location during instruction time. That is either in students' backpacks or in cell phone caddies, or sometimes it's a combination of the two. So some teachers might require the younger students to put it in the caddies and the older students to put it in the backpacks. But it's a continuous battle we are working on, that I think every school in California and the United States is working on. This year is a lot better with our implementation, and it's been really helpful having this rich discussion and being a lot firmer on top of it at the start of the year. It also helps because last year we had about 50% of our teachers were new. This year it's about like 24%, so we have a lot more returning teachers, and that's been really helpful.
Are there any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right,
We're working on it.
thank you. Yes, Ms. Fernandenson, Washington School, please.
Okay. Last year and this year, our phone policy has been really as clear as we can possibly make it, that you are not to use your phone on campus at all. So your phone belongs in your backpack, and that's where it stays during the day. I think it's been a really positive policy, and of course they are still tweens and teens, and so one of the things that we have built into the policy is also an encouraging reminder for teachers to give to students. So we live in a cell phone society, and so I want to work with our students and offer those daily reminders. Hey, I see your phone out. I need that back in the backpack. Okay, and it's right back in the backpack, and it's not the same repeat students doing that. I think that they do deserve some of those reminders and things before the discipline starts, because they didn't invent the cell phone problem. But we all are dealing with it, as the adults, and the kids also take the brunt of it as well. So we just kind of keep the policy nice and simple. But if we do have a student who is using the cell phone, the teacher can confiscate the phone, and they can keep it and give it back to the student at the end of the period, or they can send it to the office. If it is sent to the office, it is returned to the student at the end of the day. And if that happens twice, okay. If it happens a third time, the parent does have to come to school to pick up the phone. And when the parent comes to the office to pick up the phone, there's usually a conversation that goes along with it. And if we have an issue where the behavior is continuing, we would be sitting down and having a conference and things like that. But honestly, we haven't had to do that. So we haven't gotten there yet. And also, I think one of the things that we have done is, it's in our handbook, like I'm sure it's in everybody's handbook. We did walk around and we talked to all of the students about all of the rules in the handbook, face to face. And so they all know. That's the one thing we do know, is that they know that the phone belongs in the backpack. And that's how we're dealing with it. We think it's been a positive rule that we have going on, because we are also at this moment not dealing with a lot of the issues that cell phones on campus create. So that's kind of how I'm judging this, is that we're not having cell phone bullying and things like that. So that's how I'm judging how effective it is.
And as we're transitioning here, Sean had brought up a good point that you can go ahead. Okay. Is that we're really working on, I know at the last board meeting especially, one of my goals we'll talk about is for the district is to really start streamlining all of our different project, or all the different handbooks and such. And that's one thing that we're working on right now, is making sure the language is similar in all of it. Unbelievably, it's different, but we're working on that. And so a lot of our policies and stuff should just be strictly from the board policies, but we're pulling them out basically that are for the students and essentially just for stuff on campus. So just wanted to update you on that we're working on that part for that. So Michelle, do you want to?
Detailed policy.
So, we have a very short cell phone policy that we are looking at. I'm looking at rewriting it in terms of being a little more detailed. However, we haven't had any issues. Last year and the whole year I had one. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I think one of our concerns that was brought up is when we were bringing up cell phones was we don't have a lot of cell phones at our school, but we do have kids with watches, which have almost the exact capabilities. So we haven't addressed that yet, but this year I'd like to get something in place that would address that as well. And if anything does come up, so last year it came up one time where some kids were fooling around with the cell phone after school, and they understood that since it was after school, they could have it out. And so it was a restorative and informative conversation where, we talked about, what are some things that could happen if you were taking pictures of people? Would they be happy or sad? Just sort of really at their level and just more informative. In that case, they were very freaked out that we would call them out on their cell phone. And but if it was an issue, we would definitely bring parents in and have that broader conversation. So it's more of a it's more of a restorative look at cell phones, and and it's in our handbooks. So we don't. I'm just going to say my personal perspective is bringing it to kids' attention in TK through 4th grade isn't really, I don't think it's hugely appropriate. I know we're looking at some forms of education of social media. We're not sure where that's going to land in terms of grades, but so far it hasn't been a problem. So.
Yeah, what she's referring to is the Polyclass Foundation now has a online class, but they'll also come to schools to talk about social media. Their target audience is generally Washington audience as far as that goes, because that's when the tweens start. It's when finding out, as you're reading that book, you're finding out that's the age group it's really dealt with. So it is, and of course we do have some, even though we talked about before about streamlining everything, there are some different nuances based on the age of the kid, naturally.
Yeah.
But I would just say that's a good point that we're really bringing up, because that's really, shouldn't say that, but that's one of the main concerns is the social media aspect of what's going on. I think is just, and even parents really, we've talked about doing even parent education, because I think that people just maybe aren't aware of things that are actually available and are being done on those devices. Thank you. I think it would be appropriate. Maybe some people in the audience want to talk about it, and then unless you want to have the board ask some questions prior, or we might have some people in the audience that want to do that.
If anybody has any public comment, please step to the podium on this item. If you could state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, Kathleen Lynn. I work here in, this is my world, this library. I love it. And I see cell phones every day here at the high school. And I know that, the data shows that we really need our kids not to be on their phones, especially at school. So I just support whatever you will do as a board and us as educators to please, help them, because they're not going to do it. They grew up with this, and we need to do it for them and for our world. It's important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just just say that one other caveat to it also is, this, you guys have seen a lot recently that the governor's come out talking about the same issues. I think it's great that you guys already have a board policy on that. Last district I was at did not have a board policy on that. So I think you guys have been out ahead of it, but I think it's important to bring it to this type of forum, because I do think it is important. I think that the community needs to be aware of it also. And really, I mean, the SRO, this was going to be a part of what they were going to talk about as well, but we know that's, you talked about the bus turnout. Feels like the SRO is the next discussion we've been waiting on. So anyway.
Come on up.
Okay, Robin Wilkerson, hello, I'm a math teacher here at Cloverdale High School. The cell phone issue is an issue. We know that it impacts learning for the students, it impacts just their ability to focus, their ability to be present during the class. I feel the challenge is, and this is not just the challenge on our administration or our teachers, but really the challenge sort of, and this is where we could use your support, is making it important from the home to the kids, to the teachers, to the administration. Because some teachers are naturally better at implementing the no cell phone procedure than others. And it has to do with a myriad of reasons. I use this method, and I have this at my door, and I greet my kids, and they're all printed out. The roll is printed out so they each have a number, so they know where they're supposed to put their phone. I greet them at the door. You know, it's not heavy-handed, it's more lighthearted, but then they put it in, and then I double check when I take roll. And then I don't have to think about it anymore. So as an instructor, I'm not looking for those hands under the table doing the situation. But I think other teachers don't, I don't know if they're not employing it, but we're not getting consistency across the campus. So whatever can be done to help us get consistency across the campus, and honestly, I don't mind, you know, giving a forum and telling people, giving the lessons to the teachers, this is what works for me. You know, because we have a lot of new people and they may not know the best way to implement this. And it's hard. It's really difficult on top of everything that you have to do to hound kids for their phones. But I tell the kids, I have 2 rules in my class, no cell phone and no eating. And the janitor said I have the cleanest room in his, in his wing. So I'm feeling like I'm doing okay there. But like I said, it is something that we can't just leave it on the teacher in that room. It's got to be sort of embraced by everybody, some kind of campaign or something to make it much more sort of realized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to call anyone out, but what all the 7th graders say is Miss Kelly knows how to keep cell phones put away at the middle school.
Yeah, I'll just say, you know, this is before our current superintendent, but the board put in a lot of research and time and provided a board policy that says they're to be turned off. And I'll come back to turned off, not in a backpack, not under your desk. There's a reason we put that there. And we developed this policy over 2 years ago because we try to be ahead of the curve, just like we were with one-to-one technology. When COVID hit, every single student of ours had a computer with them at home. No other districts had that in this county. We tried to get ahead of the curve here. We tried to provide the leadership, the board policy to follow, because we know that it takes a long time to change culture in a district. So this isn't just a high school problem. We have to have a consistent and age-appropriate policy, K-12. And now we know, you know, within a year, I'll bet right now, anybody want to make a bet, that the state is going to make a law that says this same thing. Guaranteed. And when we talk about if we care for students, a major portion of mental health issues in our students comes from these stupid little devices. Major. And we have the resources and tools to do something about it and help them. We're supposed to be making critical thinkers, not automatons who have this in front of their face all the time. When your phone isn't turned off, your watch vibrates all through class, your earpiece plays your music, your piece in your collar, your piece in your sweatshirt plays your music, vibrates. It's all there at a level people can't see it, but I guarantee that those students would perform better on math if cell phones were off. I bet we would increase our math scores from that lowest to middle if cell phones were not on this campus for a whole year. I bet. $10,000 to this district if it could do that. I'll make that bet. So having them tucked away on their person does not eliminate the distraction. They've all got that beeping. They've all got it here. You buy your shirts with the piece sewn in the collar so the teacher can't see it. And we did this, and what I'm upset about is I asked the same question just over a year ago, and I was told by administration that in the high school classrooms, teachers can do whatever they want. We provided a uniform policy that should have been followed because we were looking out as a board for our students. And now we're behind the curve. We set the stage for this district to be ahead of the curve again. And now we're behind the curve. And we wasted a whole year letting people do whatever they wanted in their classrooms. We can only address these discipline things if we have educational leadership. That's our administration. Our policies need to be followed, and we got a lot of ground to make up that we lost. But this can't just be dumped on teachers. We need administrators enforcing this and taking care of it. It says cell phones turned off. We used data to support that decision. Real data about mental health. We can give you our reading list if anybody wants it. But this is as big a problem as smoking was 50 years ago. It's a crisis. And the board's tried to provide policy, tried to provide the best data-based policy to support admin, but it's got to happen.
And after reading, just after reading the board policy again, I think it would be in our best interest to review it. If I can just read some things that I'm like, oh, I don't know what that means, and it leaves it up for interpretation. Where it says here in the first paragraphs, I think it's the last sentence, students may use cell phones, smartwatches, pagers, or other mobile communication devices on campus only during non-instructional time, as long as the device is utilized in accordance with the law and any rules that individual school sites may impose. So this to me, and I'm not sure if during break time and lunchtime, cell phones would be utilized. But yet the next sentence is mobile communication devices shall be turned off during all instructional time. So so this is now the question, are we including instructional time to be the break time and the lunchtime, which I know for the state that doesn't count? Right? Somebody? Yeah?
Those are non-instructional days.
Or are we saying from the time the first bell rings to the time the last bell rings, your cell phone needs to be turned off? Because with those two things, I don't know, and it sounds like some sites do it that, like from the first bell rings and the last bell rings, it's off. but I don't know.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't
it
know.
says clearly, non-instructional time, we were giving leeway as a board at that time, and during instructional time, devices off, and even more specifically, placed in storage like that, somewhere else in the classroom. That's the policy. So I think there's a lot of things in this policy from over 2 years ago that should be followed starting tomorrow. Like off and in the device or the designated storage area in the classroom. And the other stuff, you know, there could be an age-appropriate scale by site. If it were up to me, no, when school starts at 8, devices are off until people go home. I think we should also look at what the current laws that are in the legislature are, because I think that's going to give a lot of the wording that we're going to be told to change anyway within a year. But the current laws are heavily leaning towards off all day. But it definitely would save time looking at those.
I would say my answer on that would be is that, especially at the high school with the open campus, it's going to be really difficult to try to curtail the use during time, especially during lunch, right, when they're gone, that part. But I think the other schools don't have, or a closed campus, right, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, so that would be my only challenge on the high school end, as far as that goes, during the non-instructional time.
Yeah. I don't know. What is, I don't know. I do know that when there's an issue and we have to, and I think there's twofold. So like making sure that this is clear, and then also communicating to the parents of the community is the other thing, because when doing searches and when something comes up and you have to search a phone and they have something on their phone and then everybody has something on their phone and then everybody sees something, and it's just like, it's a lot of time and effort, and it's just like, okay, let me see this. Okay, you need to take it down. Please delete it. Make sure it's from recently deleted. Did you put it on Tickety Talk? Like Snappity Chat? Who has it? It is a lot of time from, I will say, from my personal experience of managing cell phones. And just, I think the ask is, you know, please, community, help us and support us and watch what's happening in the cell phone and just be mindful of it. Because it's a lot. A lot goes on out there.
I just want to say I appreciate Ms. Wilkerson coming up, and you know, that's a lot to say that, you know, there are staff that are not following it. And my kids, when they attended, they had the caddies where they had to put it in there, and they thought that was great because it was not a temptation for them. And the phones even had to be flipped around so that if they didn't get turned off, if they got a text or an alert, it would flash, and so they wouldn't see that flash distraction. But if it was turned off, then you wouldn't have that. So I don't know if, I mean, it seems like a small purchase, but to make sure that everyone could get one of those caddies, and then not that Ms. Wilkerson needs to be the one to present, but I appreciate that. You know, here's how I do it, and that's appreciative.
I
I know with this board policy, when we put it in place, it was really because there was an issue, obviously, like what Trustee Addison said, and we want to do what's best. And to me, this was how we were supporting the admin and the staff, of giving them something to have, take it out of your hands to be the bad guy. You guys can put it on us. The board says no cell phones, and we're giving you the teeth to put it in place. I think one thing that we, and if we had the power of hindsight, what we should have done was once we implemented this, really made the space available to hear feedback and to hear struggles of each site of what they were running into. And maybe there was more steps needed or more support needed for each site to be able to implement this. I don't know. I just think it's something if we put a new policy in place, we should have, it should just be standard that we have a follow-up shortly after we implement it to see how it's going, to still monitor it, to see if we need to change it at all, to how it's going to reflect this. With that said, looking at our policy that we did put in place, we did say that it's, the admin, where was it? The designated storage is determined by the school site and will be communicated to students and families at the beginning of the school year. Sorry, I just had it. There was somewhere in here where it
That's the
said.
second paragraph.
Was it the second paragraph?
That's where that line was from anyway.
I think it's I think a really big change for students to get used to this because they have been granted so much privilege with a cell phone. And that wasn't, the school board didn't do that, the teachers, the staff didn't do that. I'm a parent and my kids have cell phones and I did that to myself. So we need to educate parents. We need to have parents on board with us to help because we can't expect teachers, admin, and staff to take on their entire role of being the cell phone police at school. So I think it is more of a community project that we all need to do, but to work to. But I think consistency at each school site is going to make it easier for students to adjust, so their expectations in every class they go to is the same. So it's not like, well, this teacher, I just have it in my backpack and no one knows, or this teacher, I have to put it in here, or this teacher, I keep it in my pocket and no one knows. I think kids, especially, I'm going to say, at the middle school age, they're going to see how far they can get away with, and then they're going to focus on, oh, in that class, I can get away with this, or this, or this. And like I said about Miss Kelly, every 7th grader knows that phone's getting taken away if she sees it. She set the expectations, right off the bat. It's only how many weeks of school are we in, and my 7th grader knows Miss Kelly will take the phone. So I think it's something, and I don't know if that's something at maybe a PLC meeting, or I don't know where all staff has the time to talk about it, what works, how are we going to do this together, and bring that feedback up. So then if you need us to give you more teeth in this policy, tell us so we can change it and make it to be able to support the staff and admin. And I'll just leave it at that.
Any other questions, comments? Unclearness?
Yeah, I agree with all that's been said. It's, I will tell you, I've been out of the classroom for a while, but about 2 years ago, I did a little stint in a classroom for 2 weeks, and it is a problem when you're a teacher and you have a cell phone issue, because it's just one other thing that you gotta deal with. So I love what Robin says, is that we always institute a lot of stuff, but we don't give people the tools to be able to make it happen, right? So I appreciate that. 'Cause you just don't think about it, right? You just think, well, hey, just take the kid's phone, right? But it's not that. It's a whole separate ballgame. I love the idea of sending something out. As a matter of fact, I was just sitting here writing, I was thinking a Parent Square message tomorrow would be good, to start telling parents. I just figured, I've been writing a monthly article in Cloverdale Connect. I don't know why I hadn't thought of that yet, but I think there's a good way to get the word out, because I agree it's going to be a cultural shift, right? And everybody needs to be on board. And I don't think anybody would disagree with the idea behind it. And so I would just say that we're going to, I understand this part, and I understand the importance of it, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that, but I think we need to come up with a plan on how to get there. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think it's a very clear policy, and I appreciate the policy, and I just think we need to stick to it, but we also need to give people the support and the reasons and the ways to be able to get there. And so we're gonna work on that. Starting tomorrow, we're gonna work on that. I'm gonna do a message, and we're gonna try to get that going. And I think I would agree. I think it's a very important issue that needs to be dealt with. And I think that we need something that's sustainable as well to do that. So I think it's a great discussion. I think it's perfect to have this, and message is clear for me on what we need to do. So.
Thank you. Moving on, and I want to propose a break after we review this really quickly because I have to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry. But after we review this survey, we have more surveys questions. So I'm just throwing that out there to the universe. Okay, Q6, summer board self-evaluation results. I don't have a PowerPoint. However, in front of us and in our board packet, we, as boards, in our governance calendar, we have in duty to ourselves to do a board self-evaluation, and we completed that in July, and we're reviewing the results today here in our board rooms. So this is something that the board does on an annual basis, and once usually during the summer, and then we review it on how we're doing and just making sure that we're checking in with ourselves on how we're doing, how do we think that we're doing as a collective board. Some of the board, or there was 25 or 26 questions, and some of the topics were board education, and then governance, and how we're also providing direction to the superintendent and how we're working together. So that's a good summary, or that's a summary of what it was. And I just want to open up to the board if there's anything that stood out to you on any of these questions.
We didn't agree on any of them.
Thank you.
No, we did not. Some of them had occasionally or frequently, or the majority of them were 3 or 4 across the board. We did not agree on any of them, which was interesting to me.
What do you think that?
I appreciate that some of them we said 1.5 people decided to do that.
There was no 1.5. Oh, sorry. I was like, wait, what?
There's also half.
Where?
On the y-axis, on
Oh my gosh, there is.
two of them, 3 of them.
Board explicitly examined the downside or possible pitfalls of any important decision.
Oh,
1.5.
that was just the scale. So, yes. That's correct. One of them has the scale wrong. Okay, let's go back. What do you think that means to us as a working board?
I mean, I feel like it really signifies that we are not all robots and in the exact same page and think exactly the same about everything. And I think we all have different interpretations of things and different experiences being on the board.
Anyone?
I agree.
Yeah.
As submitted.
I know, right?
One of the questions was like, the board is given and reads the agenda and background materials well in advance of the meeting. And this was 4 frequently and 1 occasionally is what we rated ourselves. And I think it was like the closest, but I hope you have realized that we as board members read our stuff and do a lot of investigating before we come up here.
And we do get our packets in a very timely manner.
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Ms.
So,
Bunting.
to be able to ask all of these questions and be able to be prepared to answer all of our questions, which I do recognize that we have a lot of questions and we do that, but I think that speaks to all of us individually, that we read, we take our time, we are well prepared when we come up here to hold this board meeting and hold this space. So I just wanted to call that out for a split second, that we do our homework. Yeah. Any other one that was, you would like to shout out? Okay, so there's another one that says our board meetings, there is at least as much dialogue among members as there are among members and staff. And here we had occasionally 4 and 1 never. And I would say that this has been, if I were to rate ourselves these last 2 years, this has been our biggest growth area. And I could be wrong, but I think we have been increasing our dialogue and with each other and then also with our presenters.
I will say just one thing, me personally taking this survey, sometimes I realize that I was answering it on the last 3 years and not of the year in review.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we could send out a reminder to ourselves when we do it. Is it supposed to be us collectively on our time or just that last year since our last review? Because sometimes it's hard for me to
Yeah.
separate in my mind
Yes,
looking back.
I agree. So putting a reminder that, hey, we're looking at the last year, let's do this. Anything else? Anybody else?
Nope.
Nope.
As submitted.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing next year's board self-evaluation in July happening. So, in the cheap seats, feel free to get a copy if you would like to see how we're rating ourselves. Okay.
We taking a quick break?
Are we taking a break?
You said
No,
you need to
let's
use
just
the
push
resolution.
through.
I know
Okay.
exactly.
You'll go
So
faster
I'm
if you have to
let's go.
pee.
I'm impressed on that
Okay,
one.
so we're gonna go a little bit faster because we're
Mind
gonna go
over
fast.
matter.
Okay. But if you do have a public comment, please step to the podium. Yeah. Anybody had a public comment? Okay, let's go. Discuss an action item, consideration and acceptance of donations.
Move to approve the donations.
I'll second. But can you formally read them out loud?
Yes.
Please.
So consideration of acceptance of donations. So once again, we would like to publicly acknowledge our donors. Play On Sports donated $156.97 to the Cloverdale High School Athletics. Ohio Pilot Prince Incorporated donated $33.61 to Cloverdale High School, and Angela Cordova donated several binders to the Cloverdale Unified School District. And for that, we thank you and all of your support to our students.
Yes.
I have a motion by Trustee Lopez White and a second by Trustee Garrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one's absent. Review and input on restated cooperative agreement with the City of Cloverdale. And this is just a discussion, correct?
Well, it's also under action if you choose to do it, but I don't know how long it's been since you guys have
There's
seen
no
this.
spot.
The last thing it said in here was 2017.
There's no spot for it.
What do you mean?
We'd have to create our own because the next one is R3.
There's no snow like this.
It's
Oh,
correction,
yeah.
right? It's just
Yeah.
discussion. Okay.
Okay.
I apologize.
I'll just say I submitted what I had worked on previously, and I don't know.
Yes, I
Not to
believe I
avoid
sent that
any-
on to everybody,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
So I know at one point in time, so what you have in your packet here is basically kind of the last several that we worked on that kind of either added or subtracted from. The SRO, you notice, is absent now because that's become a separate MOU with the city. And so we did have a few people ask questions on it. Again, we're not really in a position to approve it yet anyway. We're just trying, this is coming back to our school city committee. And I'm just trying to have open discussion on what we want to see in this memorandum, basically, or this cooperative agreement. I mean, just for lack of a better way, basically, we're looking at being able to share anything that we have. For example, we use the city park. They use some of our facilities and things like that too. So we don't have to do kind of the formal process to use each other's stuff, essentially, is we kind of just say, hey, we're not going to charge you, you're not going to charge us, we're going to work together cohesively and collaborate and do that. On certain things like the football field, for example, in that area, I feel like we're kind of doing our part because we're leaving it open now. The only part we're not doing right now is we're trying to figure out what to do on the weekends. That's the hard part. But in the mornings and in afternoons during the week, we're opening it up. People have been coming out using it, which is great. And I don't know how much quote unquote use the city might have for that other than just access, which we're providing. The tennis courts are always a part of this too. Again, we're doing the same with the tennis courts. We're leaving those open. We just don't have a way to do it in the weekends. We're trying to figure that out. One of the things we're looking at doing is creating our new groundskeeper is to work Tuesday through Saturday, so that would be able to allow that to be open. The reason why a Saturday would be good is because then he would have unfettered access to all the schools without students being there, right? So he could mow and do everything he needed to do, and that would allow him to be able to open it up on Saturdays. Anyway, those kind of things that are in there, but my thing would be is that if you guys have anything you'd like to add to it or things that are there, the stuff that's in red essentially are just different things that have been added or what they added. And so I just wanted to kind of open the discussion up for that. And so, like I said, there's really nothing, we haven't even discussed it yet at the school city meeting in detail yet. We just kind of said, hey, let's find it and let's give it to us and we can bring it to the board so I can get some direction on that. And when I say direction on that, I believe Jenny's on it and you are on it, right? So kind of direction to us, basically, to go back and do that. So any questions or comments on it?
I would just say my biggest concern, or what I would like to see come out of it, is that it's easier to read. Because it has been added to so much, there's different fonts, there's tons of typos, there's different formats all throughout it.
Correct.
And
Well,
I pick it up and I don't want to read it.
94, 98,
Yeah.
2002, yeah, I agree.
So
Couldn't
I don't
agree
know
with
if
that.
that's something you can,
Okay.
maybe it needs to be retyped and put into a brand new document.
And spell check.
And then,
And as I recall, number 4 is its own separate, which is the School Resource Officer Program, MOU, which we have an MOU.
it's, yeah.
Correct.
We passed it a
So
year and a
that
half
would be
ago.
stricken, correct,
Okay.
from this cooperative agreement, because that's a separate agreement that we're doing, correct.
Or could you leave it in there and just say C SRO MOU? That way you know we
Certainly could,
have
That way
it.
it doesn't get missed.
It doesn't get
Yeah.
lost.
yeah, okay,
It's like
It's always referenced.
reference, but
yeah. And you guys would really have a better idea of what has been done in the past and not. I know that I've really been working on a relationship with the city, and we really do have a symbiotic relationship where I'm calling them, they're calling me, so that it is an open line of communication. This is just a way to be able to put things in writing to be
Yeah.
able to kind of satisfy both sides a little bit. And I also don't think that we should have, part of the new agreement, we don't need to have the old agreements part of the new agreement. We should just
Yeah, thank you.
clean slate it and try to start anew. You know,
Yep.
and I don't know why they keep adding on, again, I don't have the historical knowledge of that, but I would think that it would just be, this is something I would think we would do every year, but it's on its own document, essentially.
so with the tennis courts, it talks about the city will contribute 56,000 to partially fund.
That was initially.
It was a one.
So when they refurbished it, so
so
basically.
I mean, should this be updated to reflect that, or like?
I think it's already been done.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's over, and so that wouldn't necessarily, I mean, we would like for them to keep giving us money for it, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was written in, and then they did it, and it's kind of over at that point.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by, and I think that's what Ashley's talking about, is cleaning it up as
Yeah.
far as what's in there. Let's not keep stuff in it that's not existing.
But I think, is there still the tennis association? Are they still
They have let me know
They
that they're no longer,
disbanded? Okay.
Correct.
It's a club.
Right. Oh, okay.
but a lot of people are doing pickleball now. We
Yeah.
don't really have the pickleball courts, so it's not as
Which-
many people doing.
Yeah.
But we're also leaving it open, like I said, too,
Yeah.
for people to be able to use it. Now, that one's, well, both of them are after school hours, naturally.
I submitted my
Okay.
documents.
And again, what I'm thinking will happen is that the city manager and I will kind of work on some of these things and then bring a little bit more polished copy to the next
A future board
joint meeting, and then bring that stuff back. So I just was kind of getting direction on that, and you guys are thinking the same thing I am, just clean it up and
Yeah.
get rid of stuff that we don't need anymore. So, okay. And I mean, I guess I didn't ask the question. This is something we're still interested in doing as a cooperative agreement.
Oh, yeah,
The
I
board's
think-
totally
Yes.
behind that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I could have led with that. So, okay. Appreciate that.
That was enough direction?
I got enough direction.
All right. R3, consideration and possible approval of the 23-24 unaudited actuals financial statement.
Hello. Before you, you have the 23-24 unaudited actuals, which is the annual report giving the financial activities of the district through June 30th, 2024. The unaudited actuals provides the foundational report for the independent auditors to perform their audit, which will be completed in December of 2024 and presented to the board in January of 2025. The district ended the fiscal year with a positive balance of $1,061,673.84. The district did deficit spend about $799,705.52 in the unrestricted general fund, and an additional deficit spent of $578,316.07 in the restricted general fund, which was expected because the district was spending down one-time money. The next steps will be to have the auditors look at this. They have already completed their interim audit for 23-24, and they will begin their year-end audit on September 23rd. Now that we have the estimated beginning balances, we'll be bringing back a revised 24-25 budget update to the October board meeting. And part of that process will be updating the budget, will include analyzing the enrollment, staffing, and the percentages of attendance.
And I would say on that, we are, enrollment is definitely down, but I'm happy to report that actually our attendance is up. We're looking at about 94% right now district-wide, which is up considerably from COVID days. Do I dare say that? So we're happy with that development, but it is, there's some going to be some adjustments to the budget that we're going to need to make on that. I think that we, at the end of last year for the budget, I believe we probably estimated a little bit more enrollment than we thought we were going to have, so there's going to be some adjustments. I would just say that it bears recognizing that Krista and her group have really worked tremendously hard to close out the books to give us a good, so we know where we stand exactly in reality instead of just projecting. I would say that we are one of the first ones in the county to get to that point, so it really does give us a jumping off point of realistic proportions instead of just projecting. Because as you know, with the budget, when we do it, it's all projections, right? We're assuming that. We do a lot of times, we do it before even the legislature even passes their budget, right, and so on. But I will tell you that I know that at the end of last year, we talked about how the unaudited actuals, when they come out and we finally do close the books, that we would end up in a better position. I don't know if that's going to be the case necessarily. And but it's our job now, since we have that information and close the books, is to really work on tightening up what that's going to be in a little bit more concrete fashion as far as that going forward. So, but anyway, just wanted to make sure we said that too. But I do think we've been working really hard as a district and a staff to increase our attendance. We've been hitting that pretty darn heavy, and I think it is paying off a little bit. I don't think we're quite there yet. I'd like to see a little higher, but the fact that we're growing towards the 95 is really, really good. So I'm happy to see that. So I appreciate everybody's hard work on that, because that's not easy.
And I'd like to give a special shout out to Tabitha Crystal, who is the new district budget technician. She is absolutely amazing. You guys did an amazing hire with her. She is super smart. She knows her GL inside and out. She's been a great asset.
questions?
Questions?
What's our state mandated reserve, or
3%.
required reserve? And what's that amount to for this, for the fiscal year in this report?
It is $751,397.
And what's our board required reserve?
The total 10% is $2,504,657.
But the portion that's the board required, what's the board required percentage?
Is 7% above the 3%. So the difference between 2.5 million and 751,000.
And then our funds, our special funds, our classroom furniture fund,
Fund 17.
what's our yearly target for that?
Well, in the past, you guys have done $110,000 plus an additional 50, I think, but that was something that was not included in the 24-25 budget that you approved.
So we put 0 into there.
For 24-25.
25.
No,
And-
we put money into the technology and the furniture one, but we did not put money into the replacement fund for the field. Correct.
Okay. That's the
So how much
110.
did we put into the furniture fund in 24-25?
For 24-25, let me
I
see.
want to say 30 or 50, but I can't remember.
That would be. So I'm showing interfund transfers for 23-24 of 110,000 and 57,157.55, and I'm not showing any that are budgeted for 24-25.
Okay.
And there was no change to the budget from what you adopted in June.
So what was 23-24?
110,000
Okay.
and 57,157.55.
And the technology fund, what's that number?
That is all, I thought that was all part of Fund 17. Are all three of those in the same one?
We had 3 separate buckets. One was the classroom
I think-
furniture fund,
yeah, I-
one's technology fund, and one's track and
But
field
I think
fund.
they're all in 17, just no?
No, the track and field is in Fund 14, he's correct.
No, but I believe that the technology and the furniture were in the same fund.
Yes.
Those two, yeah.
But, correct. But there are, so my understanding is there's 2 buckets that we're just talking about, is we have the technology and furniture fund, and we have the Fund 14, so 17 and 14 would be.
But then there's also technology.
We've always addressed it as 3 buckets.
Okay.
For 8
So
years, there's
technology,
3 buckets.
track and field, and then furniture and technology, and then there was the facilities.
So Fund 14 has for 23-24 had $175,000 moved over, but for 24-25, the budget is $75,000. So I think that's what you were referring to, is that we didn't include the part for the track.
Correct.
So for classroom furniture, what has been our historical target for the last 8 years?
I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Can we get that answer?
Sure, of course.
And for technology, what has been our target for the last 8 years? Our yearly target. And then for Fund 17, which is where both of those are, you said 110 and 50?
Yep. 57.
So I'm
is what
going to
showing.
just assume, but would like clarity. Probably the 50 is furniture, and probably the 110 is technology.
No, I would think that the 110's probably got 100 for the track and field, and then the 10 would be for the other.
We had 175 for track and field in Fund 14.
That's what was already in there.
And we should have been putting 100,000+ in there for the last 3 to 4 years yearly. That track and field in 6 years. is going to cost approximately $1.4 million to keep it usable. So just as you three carry the mantle forward, there's a big bill coming due for a field. And to make the budget look balanced and look like we were following board policy and state reserve policy, we're not saving money for furniture or technology anymore. I'll point out that we've been ahead of the entire county on technology, and it's bailed us out during global pandemics. So just, I mean, the financial situation is pretty dire coming up. We burned $3 million out of our reserve in 2 years. We have only that much left over. So if we had 2 years like the last two, the state runs this show. And some of us have seen that before. Merry Christmas.
That's why one of the goals are going to be to have a financially stable district. Yes, agreed. And what we'll do is we'll get that back to you guys on those specific questions. We'll get that information back. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any public comment come up to the podium? Does anybody have any other questions?
I think it bears mentioning that our interpreter is still hanging in there back there, so I just want to make sure that she's recognized.
Thank you.
She's doing it.
Hey, I have to go to the bathroom since 7:30, dude. Okay.
With that said, I make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 unaudited actuals financial statement.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Candelaria Orr and a second by trustee Lopez White for the approval of the 23-24 unaudited actual financial statements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one's absent. R4, receive input on the Cloverdale Unified School District School Employee Association Chapter 170 Sunshine proposal to negotiate for the 24-25 school year.
Or an R4.
Oh,
Yeah,
There's two R4s, but you know,
the
we can't
first,
count.
the first,
with the double-sided.
So all you double-sided. So all you have
Doesn't
to
count
do
if
is
it's on the
just,
backside.
just to open it up to anybody that wants to have any input on regarding the sunshine from CSCA. There's no action needed.
if you have any comments, you can come up to the podium. Any questions? All right. Moving on to R4.
R5.
R5.
R4B.
We just did all the R4s.
R4B, Notice of Cloverdale Unified School District, initial proposal for contract negotiators with the California School Employee Associations, Chapter 170 for the 2024-2025.
And that's just the notice, which we're done.
Yep.
All right.
Can I make a
Moving
motion
on
to approve R5?
Anything? No.
Nope.
Comments?
No, it's just a notice.
Okay, just the notice.
Okay.
R5, consideration and possible approval of the 24-25 superintendent goals.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
And I,
Call for a discussion. Or?
first motion, trustee Candelaria, or a second was trustee
Nobody
Addison.
created these.
For the consideration of the goals, discussion. So the goals here, so we met in closed session to discuss the superintendent's goals in August. And we have identified 3 of the following goals, which is the MTSS progress, a healthy financial position, and a district-wide alignment. So those have been the goals that we have identified as priority for our superintendent to continue to do this work.
So basically cell phones, budget, and math?
eventually wiggles.
I'm gonna say
win-
attendance
windles-
was
yeah,
in there too.
Windles down to that. Any questions? Public comment? Discussion?
Yeah, it's already.
Okay. Okay. I have a first by trustee Candelaria Orr, a second by trustee Addison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one is absent.
And Chair, I'd like to throw in an R6, since we have a translator and a chair that needs to pee. I'd make a motion to adjourn as soon as we do the future board meetings. Just waiting for a second.
It's getting nasty.
Thank you.
So
I got it.
We have to adjourn to the public hearing on this, on R7, after Mr. Addison's motion, though. You know what I mean?
No, he said future board meeting agenda.
I know, but I'm saying,
You have a standing motion after T already in place, so we can move
just saying,
forward.
on R7, we need to make sure we adjourn into a public hearing, because we gotta write down the times, and then.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
public, no, I was gonna write,
R7.
I know what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing, Juana, ahí te va. Public hearing, resolution of number 22505 regarding compliance with Education Code 60119. Sufficient instructional materials starts at
8:15.
8:15.
This is where you can get from public staff input.
If anybody has any public comments, come on up to the podium.
I'm dying to use the clicker.
Would you like to close the public comment?
You don't want to
Alright.
make it 3 minutes, do you?
Oh,
No,
For this item.
for just this item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, we will be closing the item at 8:16 p.m. Consideration of possible, R8, consideration and possible approval of resolution 22505 regarding compliance with Education Code 60119, sufficiency of instructional materials.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second motion, or a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion by trustee Addison and a second by trustee Candelaria Orr to approve the resolution number 22505, consideration of compliance with Education Code 60119, sufficiency of instructional materials. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one's absent. R9, consideration and possible approval of revised board bylaw 9100 organization.
So the big part here is you notice there's a couple of options we need to decide. Most of the other stuff that's stricken is just part of the new policy that's in there. But you'll notice in the highlighted part here, we have two different options that you guys need to decide on, which way you'd like to go. The board, option one is for the election of officers. The board shall each year elect one of its members to be the clerk. This member who has previously not served in office, unless the board members have previously served in an office, after serving 1 year as a clerk, elected members will serve as 1 year as president of the board. Or the board each year elect its entire slate of officers. So anyway, you guys know, I don't need to tell you what that means, but we need to be able to, the rest of it, and then of course there's also the same thing down a little bit lower. So most of the stuff that, shouldn't say most of it, all the stuff that's in the top that's in red that's been done, that's just a change, so we wanted to show you the change. But then you have to decide on its option.
I'd move to approve the proposal with option 2 and putting 2 years as the consecutive years. Just because a lot of times you'll have a lot of board members that don't want to be an officer, and 2 years is your electional overlap cycle.
So-
I really think you should not have it narrower than 2.
I think also, though, we can end it at option 2, the board shall each year elect its entire slate of officers, not put a requirement or a limitation
Oh, can you
on
just
it,
end
yes.
it there?
And
Yeah.
that's where I
I like
think,
that.
Oh, okay.
because we don't know in the future, if we
Yeah.
have one person that's just really great and wants to take on all the organizational stuff every year, or,
And wants to be board president?
and no matter what, we, by choosing option 2, let's say
Yeah.
someone is doing a very poor job and wants to do it again the next year, it's still in our ability to say no. We are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the open-endedness.
Yeah, so
Putting-
I'd amend my motion to be just option 2 with no
Yep.
ins, it would
Leave
insert
it blank.
Yes.
Yep.
Leave it blank.
Okay.
just
Or
the
get
option
rid of the
2
sentence.
line.
And I think,
Yeah.
Delete the sentence.
yeah, and
I-
that will definitely allow for the board to feel comfortable and being like, okay, who would like to take on the clerk,
right.
doing the clicker, being board president, and what it all entails.
I really think that doing it that way gives whoever is elected in the out years, the board itself, as much control over this. It doesn't limit any board.
Yeah.
No, and it allows us to be flexible.
yes.
Exactly.
All right, so I have a motion by trustee Addison to go with just option 2.
I'll second.
I have a second by trustee Lopez White for the bylaw 9100 organization, option 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And no one's absent. And with that, future agenda items, and I believe we do need to add more agenda items.
I have
So
something.
could we add the music program?
Absolutely.
Cell phone policy. And I don't.
I,
Yes. And with music, just maybe this is a subtopic of it, but discussing the mariachi program and if we can bring that music to more of our students during the regular school year. Because that program's been very successful with a lot of our students.
So we have athletic budgets, music program, and then with a subset of looking at mariachi program and building that.
Would you like to put, just at the pleasure of the board, would you like to put the music program just in our discussion report item going forward, maybe, so we can just keep having that discussion? Or do you want to have a separate agenda item specifically for action?
I think we should have a discussion first to talk about it, see what we can do.
Yeah.
So discussion
Who's
item.
interested, yeah,
Yeah,
discussion
discussion item's
without an
smart, yeah.
action
We do
yet.
have some, we do have Prop 28 money too that we can
Yeah.
potentially do with that, so.
So,
Okay.
yeah, maybe a discussion and action.
Okay, great. And then you're just
Either
saying the
or.
mariachi thing would fall under that?
I think it could fall under that as a subtopic.
Yes.
In regards to cell phone,
Should we put that on a standing report?
I think it should be reported back to us.
reported back to us how it's going, but also we talked about what is the new legislation, the verbiage of that. But I don't think that if it doesn't happen at the next meeting, just that it's an ongoing thing, we know it's going to be brought back.
Okay.
So
I would like to request all of our what we have board approved for the categoricals on our budget that we have approved in the last couple years, like the 17 base, because I know we did a
Right.
board policy on all of
Furniture,
those.
technology,
But
and track and field.
I would like
Those.
to have those, if I can request this, brought back when we have new board members on, so it gets the new board up to speed, and it's a team building exercise with all of the new
Yes.
admin.
As a matter of fact, what our plan is really to.
We're not discussing it.
It's a
just
future
agenda item.
future.
I
Tell
know,
me
what I'm
next
saying
time.
is our plan is to start bringing that back on a regular
Okay,
basis.
thank you.
Yes. You've been waiting all night to say that, haven't you?
Okay,
Okay, I was gonna say, let's keep this moving.
anything else that we would like to add to future agenda?
I already have a motion.
I know, you already have.
I'll second it
A standing motion and.
to adjourn.
You have to do future.
Wait,
Right.
I know.
Okay.
I just heard, I'm hearing everything, I'm writing
Two
it
of you,
down.
again, you're incorrigible.
Future board meeting dates.
I have something real quick on future board meeting dates.
Yes.
For T1 and T2, I'd like to put a standing motion to adjourn on those.
I have to look at board bylaws, because I think this is not.
Okay, but pending board bylaw review, I'd like to motion to adjourn both those
In my
meetings.
butt.
Okay. Future board meetings, October 16th,
You
2024.
can't make this up.
Regular board meeting at 6 PM. November 20th, 2024, regular board meeting at 6 PM. December 11th, regular board meeting, 6 PM. December 18th, organizational board meeting at 6 PM. With that, we adjourn at
24.
well,
Don't you have to have a
24. Well, motion by trustee Addison, second by trustee Garrison. All in favor?
Aye.